Hello, my name is Falcio Del Monde. You killed my wife. Prepare to die. Now I know what you're thinking. What the hell? He just took two different stories, mixed them together, and created an intro. Well, yes. Yes, I did. And I'm not sorry about it. But today, we will be talking about one of those. That one being Traitor's Blade by Sebastien de Castell. This was published in 2014. It's been kind of heralded as this grimdark Three Musketeers. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But, man, I will tell you this. This thing is a high action, just fast-paced, easy to digest, just a great, fun read. Let's get into it. The story is about a group of the king's men known as the Greatcoats. Now, the Greatcoats were once a mighty group fighting and bringing justice to the land. Basically, whether people are rich or whether they're poor, the Greatcoats can bring some kind of measure of justice to the land. And they're just basically all about the king's law. Now, when the story starts, the king has been dead. He's been assassinated, and the Greatcoats have fallen from grace. It's told through a first-person point of view, and so we basically are inside of our main character, Falcio Del Monde. When the story begins, we're with Falcio and his two best friends, who are also his fellow Greatcoats, and that is Kest and Brasti. Now, the three of them have basically been assigned, or they've taken a job, basically being bodyguards for a merchant. And, man, really very fast, things just go wrong for them. They're already in a very crappy position just because of how far the Greatcoats have fallen. It sucks. It's a shitty situation for them to be in. The jobs that are available for them and that they can take just are not good at all. And they're not exactly loving life at the moment. And it just gets worse for our Greatcoats from here. The story is extremely engaging, which is a good thing. This is also a very fast-paced book. So, because it is so engaging, you never feel like you're being left behind. You always feel like you have that best front row seat to all the action, all the mayhem, all the adventure. The world building in the book is not that world building on the go exactly, and it's not really the 10 pages of descriptive layout either. Sebastien de Castell does a pretty good job of just giving us, both. Just a good little mixture. Throughout the journey, man, we go through these very rich, highfalutin areas that are just fancy and beautiful. But then he has no problem dragging us through the mud, bringing us through the slums and all that nasty, dirty, low-life living. It's just a great mixture in this world. You're getting both. And now, in keeping with the world building, just kind of going into the lore, the history, the magic, I think that Sebastien de Castell did a great job. He does a great job of handing us lore. There's some flashback scenes. There's some other stuff. We do get fed plenty of lore, plenty of history, especially for this being only book one. I felt like I got to learn quite a bit. And you'll even learn about fighting styles and stuff like that, kind of even as it's happening. And with the magic in the world, the magic seems to be mostly like powders and potions, but there seems to be another little aspect maybe to it as well. It's maybe more than what meets the eye kind of thing, and that's all right. It's magic after all. Now, where the book really shines is obviously the characters. The characters in this book are just top notch. They're a lot of fun, man, especially the three Greatcoats that we're following, Falcio, Kest, and Brasti. They are old friends, and they're also comrades. So there's this awesome relationship between them. They bust each other's balls. But they also love each other like only brothers could. their relationships with one another are, you feel it really quick. I mean, I did, and it brought me into the story. It made me very invested in these greatcoat characters, and I could appreciate that a lot. We have Brasty, who is definitely like the archer of the three. He's very grumpy, kind of resentful, but he has good reason. He was a very devoted greatcoat, and how far they have fallen has really stung his backside, and he will voice his opinion. Then we have Kest, and Kest is basically just a super badass with a blade. He is actually, I believe, his nickname or his name from the king was the King's Blade. Kest is that guy, man. He's just good at whatever he does. He's very easy to like. Personally, almost, I don't know, maybe within the first 3 or 4 chapters, he became like my favorite character. A lot of fun, and there was definitely even a moment there with Kest's character. Man, I was sweating. All kinds of emotions were going. And I'll tell you this: at one point, because like some stuff going on with his character, I jumped up out of my chair and did one of these, just like, yes! I really liked Kest. Yeah. And then we also have our main character, Falcio Delmond, who is a lot of fun, man. He's a smart ass, he's got a lot. He likes to talk a little bit of shit. He's just, yeah, man, he's a lot of fun. He's got a bit of a checkered past. We get to learn a little bit about that throughout the book. There are quite a few flashbacks in the book, and they kind of, they clue us in a little bit more about our main character. He certainly has one of the most tragic backstories I've read in a bit, and it's heartbreaking. And it's also what's pushed him to his current state. He is kind of like prone to these like anger blackouts, and he can't really recall for what happens during that time. And usually when he comes out of it, there's a bloody mess that he's like kind of responsible for. Falcio is, like I said, a lot of fun for a main character. He's very interesting. Yes, he's very talented with a sword, but he doesn't just limit himself to the blade. He uses his mouth in battle all the time, man. He's just talking shit, trying to distract people, trying to put you off of your game, and he's really good at it. It kind of reminded me of sort of like how Spider-Man, like Spider-Man's always talking to the enemy and keeping them, distracted. It's kind of a similar thing here with Falcio Delmond, and just as fun. Since we're talking about action, man, the action in the book is just nonstop. We start in this book on a fast-paced note. I mean, it's high speed, and it's a lot of fun, but like I said, it's so engaging, you never lose your place. You're always right there in the fight. And I feel like Sebastien de Castell does a pretty good job, too, of describing the action. There are going to be times where there's a fight, and Falcio is just kind of even guiding you through like what he's doing. He's explaining his sword forms and what he's about to do and all that. So I do think that like I said, the whole story is engaging, and the action is no exception. It definitely pulls you in, gives you that front row seat, and lets you enjoy. Trying to touch on some stuff that maybe people just don't find that appealing. There are going to be some things in this book that might irk some folks. I think maybe one of the big ones being that, and this is a bit spoilery, but there is a Deus Ex Machina moment in the ending. It's just a bit convenient, a little too lucky for our already lucky characters. If you can just kind of just put that aside, this is such a fun read, and it's just a great adventure. If you're going to get hung up on that, man, you're going to give yourself a headache. Also, I want to talk about the tone, because this could be something that could throw some people off or not, just because of, what they're being sold, and because I've heard from so many people that's like, oh, this is the Three Musketeers, like, grimdark version. It's a grimdark Three Musketeers. I just don't think so at all. And that's where I'm like, it's not a con to not be grimdark. That's perfectly fine. But I think when people start trying to market your stuff as grimdark and then it's not, it can be very confusing. And for somebody that's trying to find a grimdark book, they could be a little disappointed in the tone. The reason why I say that this book is not grimdark, I mean, is the characters, the main character, the Greycoats they follow the law. The king's law is like embedded in them. These are not like morally gray characters. They might have a moment or here or there where they might do something that's just, not that appealing, but they through and through believe in the law. They're there to try to make things right. They're trying to bring justice to a world. I do not understand how at all that could be considered grimdark. If you're trying to put this book in a grimdark category because of maybe the violence, maybe the blood, man, I would say no again, because look, grimdark doesn't have a monopoly on blood. That stuff should be in, if you don't have it in a regular adult fantasy book, I mean, that feels more like maybe a YA book to me, just saying. Grimdark does not have the monopoly on blood, guys. So if you have a bloody tale, it doesn't automatically make it grimdark. And I don't even think that this tale is that overly bloody or dark or disturbing. Yes, there are some dark things in it, but I think that this is much more of just an adult fantasy tale than at all a grimdark book. Trust me, if you want to compare this to Prince of Thorns, you're going to be really, really surprised at the difference in the tone. I also want to mention just two other things that just might bug some people. There are two things in the book. One being where drugs being given to a child might throw you off. And another one being a very questionable rape scene. And the reason why I say questionable is because it's happening to a man. And so some people might just not even consider that rape. But he certainly says no, and it certainly is. But, I mean, like I said, it's not like some horrible knockout, drag-out scene. It's not exactly, gut-wrenching. So a lot of people might, just look past that. But some might not. So this is why I'm warning you. So, all in all, I love the book. I mean, I loved it, through and through. There was so many different things in this book for me to love. The fast pace, the engaging storytelling, the characters. The characters that I fell in love with at an extremely fast pace. It made me wonder about myself. How could one fall in love so fast? Now, as far as, my 2 cents for the slow and the struggling readers, man, this is a great book for you to pick up. I think that this is really a great entry-level book for fantasy. A fantasy adventure with a little mystery, There's a little bit of everything in this book. And it's a great book to start with, man, to bring you along and give you a little taste of all this stuff that fantasy novels have to offer. As far as I think as well, Sebastien de Castell's his prose, his writing style, it's not going to lose you. It's not going to throw you for loops. Like I said, it's very engaging. For a struggling reader, that's almost like a necessity. You need something. You need a story that's going to grab you and bring you in and just say, hey, it's okay. I got this. Let me tell you all about it. And for you slow readers, no excuses. This one is worth your time, especially if you're into stuff like adventures and that brotherly camaraderie kind of stuff, friends and fantasy. If you like that kind of tale, this is it's for you. Through and through. It's such a fun tale, and like I said, slow readers, you will be amazed with how fast you finish this book. It's just that engaging. It's just that good. It's just for you. Trust me. And also, before I go, man, I gotta give this bam 2 thumbs up. Sebastien de Castell. This was one of the funnest books I've torn into in a long time, and I just can't wait to get into the next. Thanks a lot, man. As always, guys, thank you for all the support. Thanks for spending some time here at the channel. If you give me a thumbs up, thank you. If you're new and you subscribe, double thank you. Like always, guys. Peace.